Microphones and headphones provided by Audio-Technica. To learn more, head over to audiotechnica.com. The views expressed on this episode of My Take Radio do not reflect the views, thoughts, or feelings of the My Take Radio staff, My Take Radio advertisers, or My Take Radio content partners. Listener and viewer discretion is advised.
This coverage is live and uncensored, so if you have any small children present, you may want to have them leave the room.
What's going on, guys? Happy New Year. My Take Radio episode 263 for Wednesday, January 7th, 2015. I'm your host, Rich, and our caller number is 347-324-3541. Again, that caller number 347-324-3541. As always, My Take Radio is powered by RageWorks, and it is rated M for mature. For those of you tuning in for the first time, My Take Radio is a variety show covering mixed martial arts, professional wrestling, gaming, and entertainment. As I said before, it is rated M for mature. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. All right, so welcome back. Happy New Year to you guys, all my fellow listeners, readers, and extended staff members who are joining the official My Take Radio RageWorks team in 2015. Very excited to be back on air. It feels a little weird, obviously, because I haven't been on camera. It feels like I haven't been on camera in about 3 weeks, maybe a little longer than that. I mean, we only took 2 weeks off, but it just feels so much longer, especially because I haven't even done anything behind the scenes on camera or worked on anything. I just took the 2 weeks to recharge. I got some funny holiday stories for you guys as part of this week's monologue, which I will get into, and a couple of other things as well. Slick is telling me that there is no video feed. Just want to check that. Let's check it out. Let me send a communique real quick to our friends over at GFQ and see what's going on with the video. Slick tells me that the audio is good, so I'm hyped for that. Let's see. Let me just send this out real quick, guys. I apologize. All right. So, as I was saying, holidays were rather interesting. I'm not a big holiday person, just because obviously it's one of those things where you kind of feel that the holidays are for kids. And I've kind of felt that way for quite some time. And as I've gotten older, it's gotten progressively worse. I kind of feel that it's one of those things where it's hit or miss. Some years I feel more so in the holiday spirit than others. But this year was interesting, obviously, just because, you know, now that I'm married and we're kind of trying to create our own Christmas traditions, we're trying to do a lot of our own stuff. But in any case, got some cool gifts for my family. My family got me some cool stuff, an Assassin's Creed hoodie, some Funkos, which you'll probably see some behind me, and you know, the usual stuff. In any case, my oldest sister, who I've mentioned before, you know, she has autism, so she's she's into the holidays. She loves Christmas, but she's into Christmas for the wrong reasons. Part of that is just, people not conveying what Christmas is really about. And I've always felt that the holidays themselves are about spending time with those closest to you, given that, you never know what can happen at any time. That's the bigger thing. It's more for that for me than about what I'm getting or what I'm giving anyone. And that's one of those things that's kind of been the main focus that I try and instill in my, in my family and in my sisters and one day in my children. And I kind of live by that. But in any case, my sister, given her autism, she has a focus for the last, I'd like to say 10 years on Aladdin. Loves Aladdin, draws Aladdin all the time, watches the movies all the time. So for some reason, she decides to ask for a DVD version of Aladdin. Really weird. No biggie, because I have like 14 copies of the movie on VHS, but she asked for it on DVD. So, what am I going to do? I'm not going to say no. And what I ended up doing was I tried to find it in all the usual places, and I didn't. And what I ended up doing was, just looking on eBay, and for some reason everybody was charging an arm and a leg for it. So I didn't get it for her for Christmas, but needless to say, a plan is in motion to get a couple of copies of Aladdin on DVD. Anyway, what we ended up doing was we got her Super Smash Brothers for the Wii U, Sonic Racing Transform for the Wii U, and DuckTales. One of the reasons why I picked up DuckTales on the Wii U is because she used to play it a lot on the NES when we were younger. So, we played a lot of it, and I figured, she's going to love this on the Wii U, so we'll pick it up. So Christmas morning, I go down, I hand out all the gifts. My sister opens up all her gifts. She's excited about Smash Brothers. She's excited about Sonic. Then she sees DuckTales, and she looks at it, and I'm like, hey, it's DuckTales. You know the game, blah, blah, blah. And she just says, I don't want it. Now, the thing with my sister is that when she goes through that phase, the I don't want it phase, it's just because you got to explain it to her, and she ends up taking what she gets. So what ends up happening was she said it a few times, and my grandmother's like, why don't you just go and exchange the game? So I look at her, and I'm like, yo, are you fucking kidding me? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, one thing leads to another, and in the middle of the day, my grandmother goes out with my sister at around 4 o'clock, getting ready to have Christmas dinner. I get a phone call, and it's my grandmother like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm kind of in the bathroom and getting ready to go to the store. She goes, well, I need you to come and meet me not too far from your house because I got into a car accident. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, it is Christmas Day in New York City. Nobody wants to do shit. So she gets into an accident with this lady, and pretty much my grandmother took the turn. The lady was speeding, hit the side of her car, not by much, because my grandmother, even though she's 72 years old, her driving is still pretty good. But needless to say, the lady fucked up her car pretty much, and we sat there. So I get there, I gotta say it's about 4:30. The cops didn't show up till about 6 o'clock. Now, if you were in New York City on Christmas Day, it was cold as fuck. So we're sitting out there waiting for the police to show up. The cop shows up. It takes all of 10 minutes to fill out the paperwork, and I take her home, and pretty much, by the time we got home, 6:30, 7 o'clock, my mood, which was already soured to begin with, was extra sour, but I was grateful, that the accident wasn't life-threatening to anybody involved, and, I take the good with the bad in that equation. But I will say that aside from that, the holidays themselves were relatively well. They went relatively well. I'm hoping you guys got a lot of cool shit. I know a lot of you guys off air, and I saw some of the cool stuff you guys got, and I know you guys enjoyed every minute of it. As for me, I enjoyed the shortened work week and taking a break from Rageworks and My Take Radio shenanigans for those 2 weeks. But anyway, with that said, I figured I'd share that little holiday tale of woe for you guys, because you guys always enjoy the stories. I will say this, that in resuming my work schedule, which I started this past weekend ever so slowly, we're doing a lot of things for Rageworks and My Take Radio in 2015, and we're making a lot of adjustments. Lucha Lee, who is in the chat. Many of you may know him. He usually writes on the handle under the handle of Mortis in the chat room, is officially joining the Rageworks team in 2015. He's going to be sharing his thoughts on Lucha Underground and some of the other stuff across the site as well. So be on the lookout for his content. I believe he's going to have something for us tomorrow for Lucha Underground. Slick is jumping back into the mix with some Archer stuff, and I'm working on a couple of reviews for you guys as well. So what else is going on in 2015? So let me break it down for you before we get into some of the other subjects of this week's episode. Number one, mytakeradio.com is being rolled into rageworks.net. Number one, obviously, managing two sites is a huge, tiresome pain in the ass. And honestly, you know, all the shows are being put on both sites anyway, so you'll still be able to listen to archived episodes of the show on rageworks.net. Now, if you're curious about what happens to mtrlive.com, that will remain in full effect. There will be no breakdown of service for that URL. On the contrary, it'll just forward to a live show page that we have on rageworks.net currently. So you'll still be able to enjoy the shows that way. Now, with regards to archive shows, they're still going to be distributed on Mixlr, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and any of the other podcast providers, so that is not changing. With regards to making the official My Take Radio app free in 2015, it's actually becoming a lot easier to do after talking to some of our partners that help put the app together. That is one of the goals that we hope to have accomplished by the middle of the year. So with that said, mytakeradio.com is being rolled into rageworks.net. Everything pretty much otherwise will continue as usual. All social media accounts for My Take Radio will remain, of course, because that's going to share all the show updates and everything else. With regards to Facebook, which has become just a huge troublesome pain in the ass, we're trying to do a lot of dual posting for My Take Radio and Rageworks on Facebook, so you're going to see some duplication if you follow both pages, but I cannot stress enough, if you are a fan of the My Take Radio page, please take a moment and become a fan of the Rageworks page, because we're trying to share the bulk of our content there that's not related to the show. So please keep that in mind if you intend or if you follow any of our updates on Facebook. We're still doing stuff on Google Plus and Twitter, etc., but we're trying to just scale a lot of that back and focus on what really drives the engagement with you guys. I mean, I did entertain, and I've talked about this before, trying the forums once again, and during the 2-week break, I really thought about it, especially because Facebook is changing how I'm able to provide updates for you guys. So even though I was a little adamant about doing it in 2014, I may revisit it once again in 2015, especially now that we have such an active community and a really solid staff that can go in there and contribute and bring people in and keep the forums jumping. I think it's something that we may revisit once I figure out how much of the traffic can carry over from Facebook. I mean, like I've always said, a lot of you guys spend so much time on Facebook and on Twitter that it's very, very hard to get you guys to disconnect, but we are entertaining trying our hand at a forum once again in 2015. If we do pull the trigger on it, we will give it a shot probably in the middle of the year. As for mytakeradio.com, as I said, it is being rolled over, but we should not have that finalized till at least the end of January, just because there's a lot of migration of a lot of content that we're moving over. There's got to be at least 3,000 posts on that on mytakeradio.com, and a lot of that has to be migrated over, recategorized, and just, made to look in line with everything that's on rageworks.net. So it's a bit of a process, and we're trying to go through it piece by piece. Slick has been helping me out with that as well. He's going to go through some of his stuff, and hopefully I can get some of the other guys to go through their stuff as well, just to make it move a lot faster. With regards to our YouTube channels, the My Take Radio YouTube channel will continue to get video episodes, and you can subscribe for that. Everything related to Rageworks, including unboxings, game trailers, movie trailers, all of the usual stuff will be strictly on the Rageworks channel. Like I said, that's one of the few things that we're trying to keep consistent. We did launch a brand new Twitch Rageworks channel, and I did actually delete the My Take Radio Twitch channel just because obviously we're trying to keep everything in synergy in 2015. So that's where we're at. Keep all your browser links that you currently have for us active because they all will continue to work. Everything will just be forwarding to rageworks.net by the end of January. All right, so let's get into tonight's show. I've rambled on enough. What's on deck? Of course, we're going to talk about Jones and Cormier. We're going to talk about that entire card, plus the fallout, including the drug issue with Jon Jones. It's a big discussion. A lot of people have been reaching out to me off air, sharing their opinions. Our very own Ben was very bummed that he couldn't join me to discuss it, but I know that you guys in the chat will definitely keep it moving with regards to that. And of course, we're going to get into the first Raw of 2015, which I'm sorry to say was complete shit. We're also going to talk about Impact, which I was actually watching before we went live on Destination America, and that was actually being broadcast here in New York, and I was pleasantly surprised at how it was being done. Certain things I liked, certain things I didn't like, but I think Destination America will do well with Impact. We'll see how it goes going forward. I did watch the Wrestle Kingdom pay-per-view, and we're going to get into that in the wrestling segment and some of your other news that came across my desk as well. As always, if you want to contribute and be involved in the show, mtrlive.com has the chat room. gfqlive.tv also has a chat room, and of course you can listen via the Mixler feed on MTR Live, or you can watch the video feed on either GFQ or MTR Live in any resolution and with any provider you so choose, and you'll be able to do that. As always, 347-324-3541 is the call-in number. So let's get into the week's MMA news because, man, oh man, there's way too much there's a lot to break down, and I'm trying to keep my promise of keeping the show under 90 minutes. We'll see how it goes. Let's get that ball rolling. My Take Radio's MMA segment is brought to you by MMAWarehouse.com. Get all your favorite training gear, fighter t-shirts, and other training accessories at MMAWarehouse.com. Look for their banners on RageWorks.net for plenty of promo codes, including free shipping and also free items and also opportunities to win fighter-signed merchandise. Again, the sponsor for our MMA segment is MMAWarehouse.com. All right, so let's jump right into it with, of course, UFC 182, which was, without a doubt, a very, very solid card. There's a lot of things that people really were bummed about. I kind of want to get into the main event, but there are some fights that you just can't ignore. One fight in particular, which I was really, really, really shocked with the ending, was Danny Castillo and Paul Felder. Paul Felder getting right into the 2015 highlight reel with a beautiful knockout via spinning back fist. It's not every day you see a knockout via spinning back fist. One particular knockout that always comes to mind is Mr. International Shoney Carter, who actually won one of his fights with a spinning back fist. But definitely a nice highlight for Paul Felder, using the spinning back fist in round 2, just putting Danny Castillo to sleep. 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Definitely a highlight reel moment for Paul Felder. So I definitely enjoyed that. Josh Berkman's return to the UFC couldn't have come at a more inopportune time as he squared off against the always dangerous Hector Lombard. Hector Lombard is in a whole other league with a lot of these guys when it comes to striking. This fight was no different. Of course, contested at welterweight at 170 pounds. Lombard definitely looked very impressive in that fight, securing the victory via unanimous decision. I will say that Hector Lombard is making quite a case for himself to challenge for a belt at 170. I'm sure he's at least, in my opinion, 2 fights away from getting that opportunity, and I think if he gets it, he's going to do a lot of damage. I mean, everybody's saying that it's a no-brainer for him to get in there and square off against guys in the Elite 3, Elite 5, depending on who you ask. like I said, 2-fight max. I know he's not getting anywhere near the belt for the time being because Johnny Hendricks, of course, will get a rematch against Robbie Lawler. And, of course, that rubber match is going to get quite the pay-per-view buys because both those guys are incredible fighters and they have such passionate fan bases. But either way, definitely keep a lookout for Lombard as he continues to make his way up the welterweight rankings. Now, I will say this, and I was pretty surprised with the way this fight went, and it was the Brad Tavares Nate Marquardt fight. I like I like Nate Marquardt. Nate the Great is a cool dude. I've always enjoyed watching him fight. I feel that his approach to the sport is always he respects the sport very much, and he's incredibly competitive in all his fights. He just didn't look himself in this fight against Brad Tavares. I kind of felt that, maybe he might have been nursing an injury or something because it wasn't the usual performance you'd expect from Nate Marquardt. Brad Tavares took the fight via unanimous decision, pretty much across the board, 30-27 across 3 rounds. Some people are like, oh, Nate Marquardt should consider retiring. I don't think we're at the stage where we can be, saying that Nate Marquardt needs to retire. On the contrary, he wasn't knocked out. He just wasn't performing the way he usually does, but we'll see what happens. I'm sure depending on what kind of suspensions were issued, it's not, we'll probably see Nate Marquardt once more before the summer of 2015, if not sooner. We'll see what happens with that. But I definitely want to see him fight again because I feel that something was amiss. Who knows? Injury, poor weight cut, poor training camp. It happens, but we'll see. Now, Donald Cerrone, I'm a big fan of his. He's one of those fighters that whenever you see him fight, always exciting. This fight against Miles Jury had a lot of there was a lot of shit talking going into this fight, mostly from Miles Jury's side, and I really thought we were gonna see a slugfest, a war, the typical exciting fights that we see when Donald Cerrone is in there. Unfortunately, that was not the case. On the contrary, Miles Jury kind of ran around the cage a lot of the time. Not as bad as some of these other guys, but definitely noticeable. And the fight definitely did not live up to the expectations of the fans or even Donald Cerrone himself, who really was embarrassed with that fight. He said later on that he felt that he goes out there, he gives the fans exciting fights, and to go out there and have such a subpar fight against the guy that talks so much shit was incredibly frustrating. It goes to the point where Donald Cerrone hung around Vegas to try and get another fight sooner rather than later, and he did succeed in getting one, and we'll discuss that later in the segment. Now, let's get into the elephant in the room, the big main event. Now, to a lot of people, myself included, I actually went to see the Jon Jones Cormier fight at the UFC gym here in New York City, and the thing that got me about this fight was that for the amount of shit talking there was, I don't want to say I felt underwhelmed, but I just didn't feel like we were watching a fight between two top tier competitors that were really trying to go out there and make a genuine statement. Now, the reason I say this is because Jon Jones is, he's in a league of his own. The guy, the kingpin at 205, Daniel Cormier, undefeated, just an incredible wrestler, and the animosity that was involved, I expected there to be a lot more, just a lot more aggression. I do feel that there were moments where the fight really was living up to expectations, but then there were other moments where I kind of just felt that the fight dragged on. I also felt that there was a lot of hugging, just a ton of hugging. I felt like I was watching just old school boxing matches where, you were using the hugging to wind down the clock. Now, a lot of people spoke about Herb Dean not being active enough in terms of breaking up those instances, and to each his own. Me personally, I just felt that the fight, for all the pomp and circumstance that was going into it, to me, it just felt a little lacking. And again, that's just my view on it. It's my take. You guys, a lot of you guys reached out to me and you guys were like, hey, that fight really delivered on all cylinders. A lot of people said, hey, Jon Jones is in a class of his own and this fight proved it, etc., etc., etc. I mean, like I said, there were moments where, the fight really took a turn for for where there was genuine excitement. I mean, especially in the third and in the fourth round, you kind of started seeing Jones just pick apart Daniel Cormier to the point where he even took him down a couple of times. And it was weird because a lot of people were talking about Daniel Cormier's conditioning and how he was incredibly gassed in the later rounds. And, you know, that's one of those things where people can look at it, and unless you're in there, you're not going to really know the full scope of his exhaustion. But I will say that, you know, Daniel Cormier is a guy who you know, his motto is embrace the grind. And Jon Jones is a guy that's gone into championship rounds before. This is a guy who's familiar in the territory, and he knows how to work the clock. Jon Jones is incredibly knowledgeable at working the clock. He knows to pace himself, and once that bell hits for the third round, he's going to start kicking it up a notch, and that's what continued to happen as the fight progressed, and he pretty much just started running away with the fight in the later rounds. Now, the craziest thing about this fight was the way that it ended. Right before the closing bell in round 5, Jon Jones was clinched with Daniel Cormier, and he threw up his arms as if the round ended. And when they separated, Jon Jones proceeded to try and crack him, and Cormier, of course, responded and almost killed Herb Dean in the process. Now, the funny thing was, you know, we got a DX crotch chop from Jon Jones right after that was done, and the round came to a close, but it was just very, very savvy, very heelish tactics from Jon Jones in that entire fight. Obviously, the animosity was genuine and it was there, but I feel that the fight just, I don't know, I didn't feel complete after I watched that fight. Like, you know, sometimes you watch a fight between two guys that genuinely hate each other, and those guys go in there and it's a war from bell to bell, and you end up just talking about that fight for weeks and weeks. And like I said, I got a very, very divided stream of opinions from different people. A lot of people didn't like the fight because of the constant holding and hugging. A lot of people felt that for all the shit Daniel Cormier talked, he got outclassed, which, you know, I can't say that because Daniel Cormier is an incredibly talented fighter. But I will say this, you know, preparation is everything, and Jon Jones really demonstrated that he was prepared for everything Daniel Cormier was bringing to the cage. And when something like that happens, maybe it's just that made Daniel Cormier look so underwhelming against Jon Jones. Now, looking at it, you know, and I'm looking at the chat, I see a lot of things. Johnny Boy says, I agree. I think it was a bit underwhelming. Val responded with, DC in the second realized what the fuck he was fucking with, and DC got winded in the third. His cardio was not up to par. 3 times in the fourth in succession. And then Val says, I agree. I think they're saving the gas for the rematch. Now, you know what it is? It's very easy to think that, but the problem is that at 205, there's a lot of competition. I mean, right now, Gustafsson and Anthony Rumble Johnson are squaring off on the 18th, and pretty much the winner of that match, that fight, is guaranteed the next shot at Jon Jones' title. Now, of course, with the allegations that Jon Jones is currently dealing with, I don't know how long it'll be before we see that happen. But I will say this, Alexander Gustafsson was probably the guy that was closest to defeating Jon Jones, and there's a lot of factors involved. You could watch that fight 5 different ways, and you may come to different conclusions, but I feel that statistically, height-wise, reach-wise, and even technique-wise, I feel Gustafsson proves to be a better match overall for Jon Jones, because it's almost like if he's fighting himself at that point. I mean, the reach is there, the height is there, and you know, one of the things in the Cormier fight was that Jon Jones had a substantial reach advantage over Daniel Cormier. Honestly, he had 5 inches in height and 12 inches in reach. So think about that. There was a 5-inch height difference and a 12-inch reach difference between Cormier and Jones really knew how to utilize his limbs effectively to really do damage as the fight progressed. You know, he worked the jab a lot. Obviously, the occasional eye poke was in there. But when you look at it, you realize how complete of a fighter, you know, the complete fighter you're dealing with, because this is a guy that knows all the angles to ensure that he's always damaging his opponent. We're talking about, you know, teeps to the knee. We're talking about cross kicks to the inside of the thigh, kicks to the outside of the thigh, kicks in the clinch, constant knee work, constant jabs, constant palming. There was a lot of that. You know, Jon Jones really makes use of his limbs effectively. Now, the thing that gets me when you look at this fight is that, you know, what happens when he fights a guy like Alexander Gustafsson, and Gustafsson comes in there and uses that same reach against him? You know, I honestly would love to see that rematch because there's so many questions, and Gustafsson was the closest. Now, I'm a big fan also of Anthony Rumble Johnson, and I think Anthony Rumble Johnson also poses a problem just because the guy has such incredible knockout power. He's a very strong, very muscular, very dense 205, and with that, I don't think Jon Jones is going to be able to muscle him around as effectively as he did with DC, because even DC at 205 looked incredibly small. Looking at him, I actually said to myself, you know, DC, maybe he should be fighting at 185. Not even 205. He should be fighting at 185 because the difference in body composition, the difference in reach between these fighters was just insane. And obviously, you know, the questioning of the cardio is another issue as well. But looking at Cormier side by side with Jones, especially at the weigh-ins, I said to myself, you know what? Maybe DC should be fighting at 185. Again, you know, I'm not a coach. I'm not a person that can, you know, that wants to give armchair analysis. But in looking at DC, you kind of feel that he might be more comfortable fighting at 185. Again, that's how I saw it, especially at the weigh-ins. As for Anthony Rumble Johnson and Gustafsson, it's one of those things where either one of those guys is going to pose very intriguing matchups. From Gustafsson's standpoint, obviously the reach and just the fact that he was very close the first time in taking the belt from Jones, depending on who you ask. It's a very divisive question. If you ask 20 MMA fans who watched that fight who won, it'll probably either be split down the middle or they may start fighting with each other over some of the little nuances in that fight. Now, as for Anthony Rumble Johnson, like I said, incredibly big an incredibly big 205-pounder that will not be bullied as easily as some of these other guys that Jon Jones has fought. Now, and I'll say this before we get into the other MMA news, I will say that while it would be easy to go the rematch route, as uneventful as that fight was, even though Dana White has gone out of his way to sell people on that fight, as uneventful as I felt that fight was, I'm curious to see the buy rate, and I'm curious to see if that fight genuinely moved the needle versus a fight with, Gustafsson or Anthony Johnson or any of these other guys. It's one of those things that you have to watch very, very carefully. Now, for me, like I said, I'd love to see, Gustafsson or Rumble get the next opportunity, and I don't think Cormier at this point lost in such a fashion that would warrant an immediate rematch. Again, that's just me. As always, feel free to share your thoughts in the chat. Now, let's get into the rest of the MMA news for the week, because there's actually a couple of stories I want to get into, obviously, before we get into the big elephant in the room. But the first one, obviously, fighter bonuses. $50,000 was handed out. Performance bonus went to Sean Jordan, and after that nice knockout that he had in his fight, it was well-deserved. Of course, Paul Felder, with his spinning back fist knockout, got the other $50,000. And, of course, fight of the night, which none of us should be shocked, went to Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier. Now, the next fight card that we got is UFC Fight Night 59. That is going down on the 18th, and already the injury bug has started to affect this card, so let me just break it down and tell you guys what's going on. The main event is Conor McGregor, Dennis Siver. Rumors are that depending on how McGregor performs and if he wins decisively, he may get a title opportunity, which is definitely something worth seeing. Benson Henderson was scheduled to face off against Eddie Alvarez. Unfortunately, Eddie Alvarez was injured, and Donald Cerrone steps in on what basically equals 2 weeks' notice to fight Benson Henderson. Another fighter, Uriah Hall, was scheduled to fight on that card, and they are currently looking for an opponent for him. What ended up happening was that the other guy on the card, Costa Philippou, he was also injured. So what's happening is Lewis Taylor is going to step in, and he's going to fight Uriah Hall. So that's pretty much where we're at. So, like I said, Costa Philippou got the rib injury. He's out. Lewis Taylor is stepping in to fight Uriah Hall. That's also going to be, like I said, on the UFC Fight Night 59 card. Norm Park, Gleison Tebow is going to be the opener for that main card, which is on Fox Sports 1, 10 p.m. on January 18th. Now, the prelims will be on Fox Sports 1 at 7 o'clock. A couple good fights there. Lorenz Larkin and John Howard is going to be a good fight. Zhang Li Pen and Chris Wade is another fight definitely worth checking out. Sean Soriano, Charles Rosa, Cathal Pendred, and Sean Spencer also on the prelims. And then there's another prelim card at 6. That one's going to be on UFC Fight Pass. You're going to have Takei Matsuda and Joby Sanchez and Sean O'Connell and Matt Van Buren. That begins at 6. Now, this card is probably going to be the card that's going to blow 2015 out of the water because, like I said, Conor McGregor's trying to make a statement. It's in Boston. Rowdy fans, huge Irish contingent. The buy rate, I'm sure, is going to be impressive, the viewership from Ireland. And Conor McGregor, of course, this win would secure him a title opportunity against Jose Aldo. So there's a lot on the table here. Eddie Alvarez, Donald Cerrone, these guys have a lengthy history. So him stepping in for a guy who I was looking forward to see fight, Eddie Alvarez, is just as good. Plus, like I said, Uriah Hall is taking on Lewis Taylor due to the injury from Costa Philippou. So overall, solid card, free TV. Mark it down on your calendars. January 18th, the main card begins at 10. The prelims begin at 7. So the other fight card that was hampered by injury is the UFC Fight Night 60 card, which I was pumped for because it was going to be Tarek Saffiedine and Matt Brown. But unfortunately, Tarek Saffiedine was injured, and now Matt Brown has no opponent. Also on that card, Max Holloway, Cole Miller. Couple decent fights. Nick Lentz, Thiago Tavares. I definitely want to see that. Efrain Escudero and Rodrigo de Lima. Zach Makovsky also fighting on that card. Of course, Zach Makovsky, I became a fan of his after watching him fight in Bellator. He's going to be facing Tim Elliott. And that card, like I said, UFC Fight Night 60 goes down on Valentine's Day. That's Saturday, and you'll be able to watch that on Fox Sports 1. All right, so let's get into the Jon Jones drug issue. Now, as many of you know, because it has been everywhere, Jon Jones tested positive for cocaine metabolites during a drug test that was administered on December 3rd. Now, it appears that test, the metabolites came out in that test because the subsequent test on the 18th of December did not show those same metabolites. Either way, the results were not made available to the UFC until December 23rd. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, Jon Jones was doing coke and he tested positive for it. Why did they allow him to fight? Well, let me break that down to you. It seems that cocaine, which is crazy, is not a banned out of competition substance, and the Nevada State Athletic Commission was unable to penalize or stop him from fighting. Not to mention the fact that obviously the follow-up test, he tested negative. Now, there's a couple of things you want to look at with this. First of all, if he was being tested out of competition and the metabolites came out, then as much as I love reporting this stuff to you guys, the correct thing the commission should have done at that point is, all right, Jon Jones has cocaine in his system. Exactly, Mortis. We'll get into that. The commission should have been like, hey, Jon Jones has cocaine in his system. Call up Dana White. Listen, Dana, you're going to want to talk to Bones. This guy has cocaine in his system. We can't penalize him. We can't strip him of the belt. We have to allow him to fight because cocaine is not a banned substance, but this is going to need to be something you're going to have to address. Now, the reason I say this is because obviously cocaine is a terrible drug and there's repercussions from its use across the board. But I will say that if the commission found this out on the 3rd and let Dana White know and at that point said, hey, you guys are going to want to address this immediately, then I think it would have just been less of a firestorm than it happening after the fact, because there's a lot of sketchy things which definitely need to be discussed. So I'm going to break this down for you with a couple of different statements and a couple of different things that have been going on. So first thing, obviously, is Jon Jones. It was announced that Jon Jones was going to enter a rehab for the failed drug test. Now, here's the way it worked. He tested positive on December 4th, and, that's the main metabolite in cocaine. And like I said, it's not banned out of competition, and the Nevada State Athletic Commission could not penalize him. So Jon Jones issued a statement on Yahoo Sports through his attorney, and he said, "With the support of my family, I have entered into a drug treatment facility. I want to apologize to my fiance, my children, as well as my mother, father, and brothers for the mistake that I made. I also want to apologize to the UFC, my coaches, my sponsors, and equally important, my fans. I'm taking this treatment program very seriously. Therefore, at this time, my family and I would appreciate privacy." Now, the UFC issued their own statement as follows. "We support UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Jones' decision to enter a drug treatment facility to address his recent issue. While we are disappointed in the failed test, we applaud him for making this decision to enter a drug treatment facility. Jon is a strong, courageous fighter inside the octagon, and we expect him to fight this issue with the same poise and diligence. We commend him on his decision and look forward to him emerging from this program a better man as a result." Now, Dana White, of course, issued his own statement, big shocker there, and he says, "I'm proud of Jon Jones for making the decision to enter a drug treatment facility. I'm confident that he'll emerge like the champion he truly is." Now, here's the thing. Francisco Aguilar, who is the chairman for the Nevada State Athletic Commission, did say the following: "I'm pleased that Mr. Jones is addressing this issue and seeking help for the problem." Now, like I said, a lot of questions come up, such as, all right, if guys can be suspended for smoking weed, then why is cocaine not considered a banned substance? That's a big question. A lot of fighters were very, very vocal on social media. Guys like Pat Barry in particular, very vocal, along with other fighters. And the fact is that, yes, that's something that raises a very, very valid point. Think about it. Me, personally, I live a straight edge lifestyle. I don't pass judgment on anybody's drug anything. You want to smoke a joint, it's not going to kill you. You smoke weed, whatever. You get high as a kite, no problem. But last time I checked, there's worse shit you could be doing, like cocaine, fucking crack, heroin, PCP. There's worse shit out there. A joint isn't going to kill anybody. It is what it is. And for the commission to come out and just really, when these guys piss hot for weed, it's like, oh, you're going to be suspended for 6 months or a year, and we're going to fine you $20,000, and you got to submit to random testing, blah, 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 blah. Now, obviously, the big question is, well, it's not as aggressive because, it's not something that happens often. But at the end of the day, when you look at competitive anything, if you're not allowing weed, then you sure as fuck shouldn't allow coke or any of these other stimulants or amphetamines or any of these other drugs. It should be unilateral across the board. It shouldn't be, picking and choosing, oh, well, don't smoke weed, but coke is okay. It's ridiculous. Now, an argument can be made, oh, well, it's Jon Jones. He's a young guy. He's got a lot of money. He's out there. He's partying. I've always had this conclusion when it comes to cocaine. Cocaine is a rich people drug. Even though it's pretty much crack, it's still a rich people drug. It's one of those things they hand out at parties. You fucking walk in, there's a mountain of coke. It's rich person drug use. And odds are, dude's making all this money, goes to a couple of places. Yo, man, you want to try this? I don't know. Who knows? Now, of course, everybody comes out of the woodwork and they're like, oh, well, we kind of knew that he was using coke, but we weren't sure. There was a guy that did a piece on Jon Jones in Deadspin, and he kind of was just like, oh, I was shocked it took this long. And that's why I'm a little upset at the way this was handled. Because obviously, if you can't suspend him and you can't penalize him and you can't do shit to him, then you might as well not release it to the public until it's discussed with the UFC and let the UFC handle it. It's ridiculous. it's ridiculous the way it goes that they put it out and then everybody's trying to sweep shit under the rug. Now, another MMA Fighting put out a very interesting piece. They spoke with Nevada State Athletic Executive Director Bob Bennett, and he pretty much said the same thing. He said that the Nevada State Athletic Commission learned of the failure on December 23rd, and that to his knowledge, Jones was not informed of the failure until after UFC 182. He went on to say that why was Jon Jones tested for a recreational drug that's not considered a banned substance out of competition? And he said, get this, this was a bit of an anomaly that will be addressed on the next Nevada State Athletic Commission hearing on January 12th. It was not a report requested by the NAC. It appears to have been an administrative oversight, meaning that the reason that we all know that Jon Jones was using coke was because they accidentally tested for it. Do you hear this bullshit? You accidentally tested for coke? Accidentally. Oh, we don't normally test for coke. Are you kidding me? You have a sport comprised of elite athletes and you're not testing for coke? Oh, I accidentally fell into this pile of snow and I snorted it. Oops. No biggie. Slick also said the same thing. And think about that. Let's think about this, and I want to break it down. He said, and I quote, "It appears to have been an administrative oversight." You know? And then when they were tested, when they asked them if they tested Jon Jones for recreational drugs on the December 18th test, he said just for out-of-competition drugs such as anabolic steroids, no street drugs. So let me get this straight. You tested him on December 3rd, and you accidentally tested him for coke, right? Nobody knew the results till the 23rd. But then you tested him on the 18th, and all of a sudden, you didn't test for any recreational drugs, yet they were tested for on the 3rd. So either somebody didn't want that to get out and realized they fucked up and tried to fix it, or they realized, oh shit, we shouldn't have tested for this the first time, and just went ahead and tested for it the second. It's ridiculous. It is completely insane. In addition to that, it's MMA Fighting reports that the news came to light because there was a public records request for Jones' drug test results after the fight, and that it may not have been made public otherwise. Bennett said that the commission had already planned to discuss the matter at next week's hearing. So clearly, to go with what Mortis was saying, somebody must have known that Jon Jones was using coke, and they figured, let's check for the shit, and sure enough, there it was. Because number one, it was accidentally tested for. Number two, someone requested the test publicly, which is very, very interesting. That means that somebody wanted that record revealed to the public immediately. So with that said, this coke issue is not it's not just, oh, Jon Jones accidentally snorted some coke Thanksgiving weekend. That means that somebody knew he was using the shit and decided, hey, we need to get to the bottom of this. Let's ask for the records to be made public. It is ridiculous and insane. And the thing that bothers me most is that cocaine is not an out-of-competition banned substance. Oh, you can't smoke weed when you're not competing, but you could do coke. Go ahead, do coke. Snort all the coke you want. It's insane to me. And I truly do not understand how that is something that could just go under the rug. I don't get it. And it drives me insane. Like, I've been reading all these stories and I go, but it just gets worse. It gets worse. It gets fucking worse. It's ridiculous. It just gets worse. In addition to that, here's another crazy thing. MMA Junkie spoke with Don Catlin, who was the former UCLA Olympic Analytical Laboratory head, because in addition to, you know, the whole thing going on with Jon Jones testing positive for coke, they also said that his testosterone levels were very, very suspect. So like I said, they spoke with Don Catlin, and they also spoke with endocrinologist Jeffrey Brown about the drug test. So Jones's test revealed a 0.35 testosterone ratio on December 14th, and then a 0.119 on December 19th, which Catlin said is worth looking into, but he also said it could be perfectly normal. So think about that. That TE ratio was at 0.35 on December 4th, then it just dropped down to 0.19. Catlin said that, you know, the TE ratio is, you know, it's one of those things that can fluctuate, but he said that those values were very, very low. Now they asked if the substantial drop could be attributed to excessive exertion, and he said it's not affected by that, but we've done studies and we know that that doesn't alter the TE ratio. What alters it is the amount of epitestosterone, and the value you have is well within the normal range. It's normal, but it is a bit on the low side, and I would wonder, and I would go on to further ask for a carbon isotope ratio test. That would tell you what's really going on. So, you know, you got these really, really funky testosterone levels. You got the coke. There's a whole bunch of crazy shit going on. And, you know, it's really just a sad, sad situation. It's sad because, obviously, you know, this guy, even though he's going to go through rehab and all this shit, it really is a very, very big blemish on his career. It's also a blemish on the Nevada State Athletic Commission, because you've basically told the general public that cocaine is not a banned substance, that it's okay to use. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, obviously you can't ban the snowman, but still, it's out of control. It's out of control that the Nevada State Athletic Commission basically got a black eye for saying that, yo, it's okay that he tested positive for coke. That's number one. Number two, the fact that, oh, we accidentally tested for coke that we don't normally test for it. Are you kidding me? And the fact that they just would nonchalantly said, oh, it was an administrative oversight. Not to mention the fact that the UFC isn't even contemplating or made any mention of penalizing Jon Jones for that. Because I'm sorry, banned or not banned, it's fucking coke. It's like there's no rationale. Like, some people are like, well, you should strip him of the belt. You could, if you wanted to. You know, that's up to the UFC. But I definitely feel he should be fined substantially, because that's a big deal. You are the face of your organization, and you're over here doing coke. But then again, this is a guy that wrapped his Bentley around the tree, and he was drinking alcohol. And, you know, whatever. Shit happens, young guy, whatever. It's really, really insane. Reebok also just recently announced that Jon Jones was one of their signature athletes. They signed him and Ronda Rousey. And their statement was, we commend Jon for taking the necessary steps to address this issue, and we will support him in any way we can. The status of Jon's relationship with Reebok has not changed. You know, it's insane. It really, really is. And like I said, it's a black eye for Jon Jones's career. It's a black eye for the sport, and it's 110% a black eye for the Nevada State Athletic Commission. And the only thing I can say is that I sincerely hope, you know, he gets himself checked in rehab, he handles his business, and he comes out a better fighter for it. But I will say that this entire situation is a matter that could have been handled behind closed doors and could have been made public after the fact, and maybe the firestorm wouldn't have been as aggressive as it is now, where a lot of the internet MMA community are running around with pitchforks in hand. Me personally, you know, you can't take away the guy's talent, and the guy is, you know, he is who he is, and he's at the top of the division because of the level, the caliber of athlete that he is. You know, he fucked up. He definitely fucked up, but it's a fuck up that definitely should not be swept under the rug. He should be penalized in some capacity. And obviously the Nevada State Athletic Commission can try and penalize him, but they're the first ones that shot themselves in the foot by saying that it wasn't a banned substance. So there you have it. That's my take on it, and we're going to be monitoring this story very, very, very closely because, like I said, it can go so many ways, and so many people are going to be raked over the coals. The Nevada State Athletic Commission hearing is scheduled for January 12th, so that's going to be next Monday, and we're definitely going to try and share with you guys what happens before next week's show. All right, so there you have it. So let's throw out a couple of other news. If you are a UFC Fight Pass subscriber, you're going to be getting a lot more on-demand content. On-demand content that UFC is adding, including Cage Rage, Extreme Challenge MMA, Hook and Shoot, King of the Cage, Pancrase, TKO, UC MMA, and XFO, and they're going to start making those fights available on Fight Pass servers through 2015. So if you're a fan of any of those other promotions and you are using UFC Fight Pass, you'll be able to watch that sooner rather than later. It was announced earlier this week that Anthony Pettis will be defending his title against Rafael Dos Anjos at UFC 185. That's going down March 14th at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. Now, besides the UFC Fight Night card in January, of course, we got the big one, Anderson Silva, Nick Diaz, January 31st, and that's your main event. Kelvin Gastelum will be taking on Tyron Woodley. Ali Akinta's taking on Joe Lazan. Tim Bosch is squaring off against Thales Latis, and Thiago Alves is taking on Jordan Mean. Plus, Sarah McMahon and Misha Tate. Derek Brunson is squaring off against Ed Herman. John Lineker is facing Uncle Creepy, Ian McCall. Rafael Natal is facing Tom Watson. Diego Brandao will be taking on Jimmy Hetz. And a couple of other fights as well. Again, mark that down, January 31st. That's the big one. Nick Diaz, Anderson Silva. I am hyped for that card. I am incredibly torn on who to root for because obviously Anderson Silva coming off his very, very gruesome injuries suffered in the fight with Chris Weidman. Of course, looking for redemption, which, by the way, was Dana White confirmed that if Anderson Silva wins this fight, he will be able to get a rematch. He'll be able to square off against the winner of Weidman-Belfort. So we may get an Anderson Silva rematch, or who knows, Anderson Silva may get another rematch against Vitor Belfort. So very, very interesting that a victory over Nick Diaz would catapult Anderson Silva back into the title picture, but that is the word from Dana White. So there you have it. There's a lot of more incentive to watch that card when it goes down January 31st. Another fight that was announced, this one was announced for UFC 185. Roy Nelson squaring off against Alistair Overeem. Definitely looking forward to that. Of course, like I said, the main event, Anthony Pettis taking on Rafael Dos Anjos. I'm actually looking forward to this. I like Roy Nelson. Alistair Overeem's definitely trying to get back in his winning ways. I definitely feel that fight is going to be a slugfest. And even though Roy Nelson did get knocked, has had his chin tested, I do feel that Roy Nelson's hands can definitely do some damage if they connect with Alistair Overeem's face. So again, another fight added to the UFC 185 card that's definitely on my radar. All right, so the only other thing I wanted to put out there is that Frank Mir and Antonio Bigfoot Silva's fight has been moved to UFC Fight Night 61 on February 22nd. They were originally supposed to square off at UFC 184 on February 28th. So definitely a solid card. Frank Mir, Antonio Silva is your main event. Edson Barbosa will be meeting Michael Johnson, and Ruslan Khabilov will be taking off Adriano Martins. I definitely want to see that fight. Jessica Andrade is going to be facing Marion Renault, who recently fought on the UFC 182 card and had a very, very solid performance. So, again, a lot of great fights, a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world of MMA. Like I said, first and foremost, the Jon Jones situation, just a big elephant in the room, a big black eye for various entities in the sport, Nevada State Athletic Commission, the UFC in a way, and just Jon Jones' career. Hopefully, like I said, the Nevada State Athletic Commission will shed some light on the situation during their January 12th hearing. And of course, once we hear more, we will definitely share it with you guys, either on social media or on next week's broadcast. All right, so with that, we are actually going to wrap up this week's MMA segment, and we're going to get into some wrestling. We got 2 wrestling cards to discuss, obviously Raw, plus Wrestle Kingdom, which I kind of want to share some thoughts on, and of course, the rest of the wrestling news for the week. As always, if you want to get involved, 347-324-3541, or you can use the show chat at mtrlive.com or gfqlive.tv. Wow, that was weird. I thought I was going to end up burping into the mic, which would have been gross. Luckily, I stopped that. Anyway, let's get into the week's wrestling news. Booker T, take it away.
We want the gold, sucker! Hulk Hogan, we coming for you, nigga!
As always, My Take Radio's wrestling segment is brought to you by WWE Shop.com. Get all your favorite WWE merchandise from all your favorite superstars and use our promo code WWE Save 10 to save $10 on orders over $70 or more. Again, that promo code is WWE Save 10 for our sponsor, WWE Shop.com. All right, so it's very easy to open up and talk about Monday Night Raw and shit on that, but we're not going to do that. I'm actually going to talk about the Wrestle Kingdom event put on by New Japan Pro Wrestling, which was, without a doubt, probably one of the best wrestling cards from top to bottom that I've seen in some time. It was on pay-per-view. The American announce team was Jim Ross and Matt Striker, and there were just amazing, amazing matches. I saw Redragon take on the Forever Hooligans, the Time Splitters, and the Young Bucks for the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championship, and holy shit, did that match deliver from start to finish. It was, without a doubt, Rock'em Sock'em Robots from start to finish. I thoroughly enjoyed the match. I do feel that there's an incredible amount of talent in New Japan, and the Young Bucks definitely continue to impress. Obviously, their affiliation with Bullet Club has them on a lot of people's radar, but the Young Bucks have been guys that have consistently performed well in every organization, from House of Glory to Ring of Honor to TNA. I definitely feel that they are an asset to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and we're only scratching the surface with those incredibly young and talented guys. As always, Alex Shelley, I'm a big fan of after his work in TNA, so it was definitely nice to see him as well. Kozlov and Romero are no joke as the Forever Hooligans, and Redragon, those guys don't fuck around either. The Bullet Club match with Bad Luck Fale, Jarrett, and Takahashi against Tenkoji was it was okay. I felt it was a bit more comedic than I would have liked, but the match itself was incredibly enjoyable. I also liked the Toru Yano multi-man tag team match against Suzuki Gun, because of course we got to see Davey Boy Smith Jr., Shelton Benjamin, Lance Archer, again, a lot of guys we've seen in other organizations. It was nice to see Shelton Benjamin. Definitely has not lost a step, and I think that he's been working his ass off in Japan, and it shows. We got a little bit of MMA action also on that card, which is something that's become a bit of a staple for a lot of New Year's Eve Japanese cards that I've seen over the last few years. Kazushi Sakuraba took on Minoru Suzuki, and it was a great match. Sakuraba passed out after being caught in a sleeper, and I really liked the mix of MMA. That's one thing I have to talk about with Japanese cards. They do a really great job of just merging MMA with pro wrestling. Obviously, there's questions about the realism of an MMA match on a wrestling card, but either way, it's always entertaining to watch. I like it. I think it's a great break in the action, and it just continues to show the way that the Japanese people embrace mixed martial arts and professional wrestling, and how they view them as sports that go hand in hand. So definitely a welcome approach for that. Ryosuke Taguchi and Kenny Omega had a tremendous match. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you can find it on YouTube, it was for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. I I cannot stress enough that you guys need to check out that match. Also, the match for the IWGP Tag Team Championships was tremendous as well. The Bullet Club, Doc Gallows, Machine Gun Carl Anderson took on Hiroki Goto and Katsuyori Shibata, and it was just madness from start to finish. Definitely enjoyed it. I loved every aspect of the match, and I really felt that these guys got great chemistry. The Bullet Club definitely are the NWO of the new generation, and they continue to impress. And the reason I say this is because NWO here in the States went through so many incarnations: Black and White, Red and Black, LWO. Just the organization, correction, the stable got so watered down and so disassembled that by the time it got to an incarnation that we all enjoyed, it just really, it really just put things in perspective. But I do feel that the Bullet Club has incredible longevity, and I really like watching those guys work. Hopefully, we get to see more of them here in the States. Let me just send Slick a message real quick. There you go. Anyway, so I do want to say this. The AJ Styles Tetsuya Naito match was amazing. I love AJ Styles' work in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Obviously, there's a lot of things about the Styles Clash that have definitely been rubbing people the wrong way, but AJ Styles has been performing that move for a long time, and I do feel that it is a two-person move. And when I say that, I say it in the sense that obviously AJ Styles delivering the move, but you also have to concern yourself with the way that you're taking the move. And obviously, naturally, the easiest, the easiest rule of thumb is to see if, those guys are tucking their head or not with regards to how they take the move. Now, obviously, a lot of people are, they're clamoring for AJ Styles to start using something else outside of the Styles Clash, but again, the Styles Clash is something that it's synonymous with him, and I'm personally more a fan of his calf killer submission, so I got no problem with it either way. But Styles Clash was definitely nice to see. Tetsuya Naito definitely impressed me. This is the first time I've ever seen Naito's ring work, and it definitely was it was worth watching for sure. Now, I did miss the tag team match, but I did see the Tanahashi Okada heavyweight championship match, which was amazing. Everything about that card that was closed out was tremendous. I really liked the way it went down. And if you can do yourselves a favor, check out the replay. There's probably highlights on YouTube as well. And again, you do yourself a disservice if you did not get to check that out. Just a quick reminder, and I didn't mention this at the top of the broadcast, and, Slick reminded me as well. As always, if you want to call in, 347-324-3541. If you want to participate, please make sure to hit option 1 when you are in the screening room. This allows Slick to know that you want to participate, and he can screen the calls accordingly. Again, 347-324-3541 is the call-in number, and if you would like to participate, please hit option 1. Otherwise, you can just continue to listen to the show in queue. Again, 347-324-3541. Make sure to hit option 1 and let Slick know you want to participate in the show. All right, so outside of New Japan Pro Wrestling's event, which was tremendous, we were treated to the first Raw of 2015. Now, obviously, if you saw Raw at the end of the month in December, you know that the Authority once again assumed control after Seth Rollins, healing it up to the umpteenth degree, pretty much threatened to kill Edge, and unless John Cena brought the Authority back in power. So, I don't know, man. It was one of those things where I watched it and I said to myself, you're bringing the Authority back. And even before I address this week's episode of Raw, I was upset that they brought the Authority back, not because I hate the Authority, because whatever, love them, hate them. You always need some sort of an evil authority figure in pro wrestling, and it might as well be motherfuckers that we don't like anyway. But the thing that got me was the fact that you went to such great lengths to, you make Sting a catalyst in the Authority being taken away. Not to mention the fact that you also built an incredible amount of positivity behind Dolph Ziggler being the factor. By doing that, you redeemed Dolph Ziggler, you breathe fresh air into his character, and last but not least, you allowed the programming to take a little bit of a break from the usual 20-minute Triple H and Stephanie promos. Like I said, it's one of those things where I just felt that to close out 2014 with Dolph Ziggler's work and Sting's debut just being undermined by bringing the Authority back, it was just poor form, and it just really showed that creative is scared. Now, of course, a lot of internet websites are reporting that, thank you, Slick. It is Closeout 2014. I do feel that a lot of websites, they're saying that the Authority was supposed to have been brought back. It was one of those things that was in the cards. It was going to happen. And, it's crazy, but here's where I stand with that. The Authority, whether they were part of the Raw broadcast in 2014 or whether they were brought back in 2015, the fact that they were such a huge catalyst for a guy, like I said, like Dolph Ziggler, getting a push, not to mention the fact that they were also the driving force for Sting to debut, and, less than 2 months removed, you pull the trigger and bring him back. I just felt it was poor form. There could have been another way to do it. You could have found another stipulation, another way to kind of freshen things up. I do feel that, like I said, while the Authority is necessary, it's a necessary evil, it's not an evil that we needed so quickly, because it just felt incredibly, incredibly rushed. Now, the first Raw of 2015 obviously was going to focus on the fallout of that, and they jumped right into it immediately as John Cena was out there with the entire Raw roster stating that he pretty much failed everyone, blah, 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 I'm fucking sorry, etc., etc., etc. And of course, Triple H's music hits, comes out, says everybody's going to get what they deserve, and on the spot, they offer Seth Rollins a slot in the heavyweight title match at the Royal Rumble. So, it's no longer going to be Brock Lesnar versus John Cena at the Rumble. It is now going to be John Cena versus Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins. Mind you, if you've been keeping track, no briefcase has been cashed in. Seth Rollins has been placed into the match, and he has an extra quarter to put in the machine if he loses. Meaning that odds are that if Cena wins or Brock retains, that it's almost a no-brainer that Seth Rollins is going to cash in and win the belt. Now, the real question is, do you believe enough in Seth Rollins to cash in and take the belt from Brock Lesnar? Not from John Cena, but from Brock Lesnar. Because considering that Brock Lesnar has, still a couple of dates on his contract and a date with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania or Daniel Bryan, depending on who you ask, it makes you wonder if they're going to pull the trigger on that right away. Because as much as I like Seth Rollins and I feel that he's on the top of his game, dethroning a guy like Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble, while it is something that's great to see, if they're going to take the belt from Brock Lesnar, put it on Rollins, only to have Rollins drop it back, it's gonna waste a great Money in the Bank cash-in opportunity. I've always felt that Money in the Bank leads to incredibly memorable moments that we talk about forever. Whether it's Edge cashing it in on John Cena or CM Punk cashing it in on Edge, these are moments that we always talk about. And the fact that you're putting him in this triple threat match and laying the groundwork where it's almost a no-brainer, for Seth Rollins to cash it in and either hit Brock Lesnar with the suitcase or take advantage of John Cena if he wins the belt back. I just don't see that being the right course of action. Now, some of you may agree with that, some of you may not, but I just feel that doing that to Seth Rollins is just an incredible disservice to all the work he's put in as a performer. And like I said, it just takes a match that we thought was going to be a conclusion, and it just adds a wrinkle that may blow up in everyone's face. Because honestly, at this stage of the game, if Brock Lesnar wins and retains against John Cena, we knew that it was going to be final. We knew it was going to be the closeout, and that was it. So, in my opinion, to go the route that they're going and pretty much essentially give Seth Rollins that extra quarter to continue, and not have it mean anything, is, like I said, it's damaging his character. You need the run-in. You need the opportunist, because if there's anything that we learned after Seth Rollins' exchange with John Cena on the final Raw of 2014, is that he's definitely one of the better heels on that roster. He was channeling a lot of the opportunistic, real aggressive heel tendencies that made Edge a household name. It's like what Edge tweeted Seth Rollins, it was a passing of the torch, because he did tweet that. And it's true, I did feel that was a passing of the torch moment in terms of just heel villainy. Now, the thing that I would have liked to have seen was, like I said, the Royal Rumble comes and goes, the main event happens, John Cena may or may not win the belt, and Rollins just runs out, cracks him over the head with a briefcase, or cracks over the head Brock Lesnar and wins the belt in truly opportunistic fashion. Because at that point, nobody would expect anything. Maybe give Seth Rollins a match with somebody else, or put him in the Rumble. Whatever the case may be, make it in such a way that nobody's thinking about Rollins cashing in. It would make things a lot better for all parties involved if they did that, but instead, we're going with this route. But I digress. Let's move on. So the first authority punishment match, of course, was for Dolph Ziggler as he squared off against Bad News Barrett for the Intercontinental Championship. Of course, Corporate Kane got involved, and the match went from a single fall match to a 2 out of 3 fall match, which ended up with Dolph Ziggler on the receiving end of a bullhammer elbow and losing his Intercontinental title. Now, a lot of people jumped on Twitter and on social media and complained about that, but I hate to say it, the IC title, depending on who's holding it, is fucking kryptonite. And Dolph Ziggler, to him, in his case, and I've said this before, the IC title was a fucking prop. And not for nothing, Wade Barrett was champion and had to vacate it due to injury, so him winning it back makes sense from a storyline perspective. Now, the real question is, now that Dolph Ziggler is not champion, what are you going to do with him? And of course, we know what happens, we know what happens at the end of Raw, and we'll discuss it, but I will say this, Dolph Ziggler is better off without a belt and in a higher position on the card than having a belt and being stuck having to defend it when the storylines and the feuds for his defenses make no sense whatsoever. As for Bad News Barrett, I'm glad to see him back, delivering bad news. It's always good. I just hope that, again, much like Dolph Ziggler, they give him some meaningful feuds so that his return can be something that people remember instead of something they forget. Because too many of us, when we think of Bad News Barrett, we think of his bad news promos and his constant residency on WWE's injury list. So we'll see what happens. I actually have no problem with the outcome of that match. Like I said, if they're going to do bigger things with Dolph Ziggler, I'm all for it. So let's go into, and this was the Roman Reigns promo of the evening. Roman Reigns did a promo with Renee Young, and it was fucking awful. If we've sat down numerous times and talked about Roman Reigns, the first thing that we talk about is how fucking terrible his promo ability is. This is a guy that you're sending to improv classes, you're getting him an acting coach, he's terrible. I don't know if he's, is he getting fucking acting lessons from Mr. Bean? Because his acting is shit. Shit. Roman, I want you to go out there and do a Superman analogy in your promo. All right, Vince. Sounds good. Why? Why would you do it? You're not booking him as a Samoan Superman. Not in the least. Not happening. Not happening. Mr. Bean is an accomplished actor, so it can't be him, Slick says. Yes. Rowan Atkinson, yes. Mr. Bean, the character, no. But no, in all seriousness, when we look at the Shield collectively, and we've talked about this before, you had Seth Rollins, who was the mouthpiece of the entire group for a little bit of time, and then Dean Ambrose pretty much ran away with the ball. He was the mouthpiece. Roman Reigns was just believe. Yeah. And that was it. One word, monotone answers. Even Seth Rollins, who was okay on the mic, has just improved substantially. Every week he gets better. If you look at Seth Rollins' promo work in the WWE and you compare it to his promo work in Ring of Honor, you will see the fucking improvements. If you look at a Roman Reigns promo from 6 months ago and a Roman Reigns promo from now, shit. Complete shit. Zero improvement. And it's like, I understand WWE. You're trying to create it. You're trying to create this guy. You're trying to make this guy famous. But, it's just craziness. It's just, it's one of those things where I understand what creative is trying to do, but they're just not working at it. They're not working at it the way they should. Yes, continue to build Roman Reigns. Continue to make him a force. But either give him a manager or really, really get aggressive in his instruction. It's like what they used to do with The Rock. The Rock had one guy that used to write his stuff, and he got really good at it. You guys know this. The Rock had one guy, did all his shit, and he made it work. Now, it's like, oh yeah, we're just going to have Roman Reigns come out there, and he's just going to cut a promo that makes no fucking sense, and people will cheer. The crowd was fucking dead. Dead. I couldn't even believe it. And the best part was, Renee Young is like, sure. Yeah. And then, to redeem themselves, they go and they take that Roman Reigns promo and they follow it up with another gem from Bray Wyatt. Obviously, this is leading up to the, to the ambulance match we were going to see later on tonight. But you go from one extreme to the other, from lackluster Mickey Mouse ABC 1-2-3 promos to holy shit, this guy, he induces fear. He has just a delivery system, a promo delivery system that's spot on. It's on point. It tells a story. It tells a narrative. That's the kind of shit that we look for. We don't look for this fucking bullshit that Roman Reigns is spewing. It just doesn't fit his character. It doesn't work. Doesn't. Anyway, let's talk about another low point. And that involved the Ascension. Now, if you've been watching the Ascension, you guys know that the Ascension in NXT, dominant tag team. No face paint, no stupid jackets, nothing. You know what the Ascension brings to the table in NXT? Ass kickings and fog. That's it. There's fog. They rise through the fog. They come out. The crowd is into them. They fuck people up. They have really good matches. But no, when they debut on WWE television, they're face painted, wearing stupid vests. It's just complete garbage. And then, on top of that, these guys come out and cut a promo about dominant tag teams. They allow them to shit on Demolition. And above all else, they talk about them. They let them shit on the Road Warriors. And listen, Hawk and Animal, when you talk about legendary tag teams, Hawk and Animal are either number 1 or number 2 on most people's lists. Whether it's, Hawk and Animal, the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom, however you want to call them, with Paul Ellering, without Paul Ellering, with Sonny, whatever the case may be, Legion of Doom, top of the tag team food chain, right up there with Demolition, Power and Glory, Edge and Christian, the Hardys, Team 3D, the Wolves, Generation Me. You can go Motor City Machine Guns, Beer Money. There's so many teams you could name, and at the end of the day, those teams, even on their worst day, are better than the Ascension on Raw currently. And the fact that Creative let them just shit on these legendary tag teams was embarrassing. And you know what it is? I don't even blame them, because that's the first thing. People can't differentiate from characters that are portrayed on television and the individuals themselves. I'm sure that considering the lineage and the history of guys like the Legion of Doom and teams like Demolition, these guys were probably like, damn, we really got to say that? And they were like, yup, that's what you're going to say in your promo. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And the fact that, they had to go out there and do that, the crowd booed them. And the worst part was that JBL and Booker T, they pretty much almost broke character. Like, Booker T was like, yo, they couldn't even, these guys, I don't know what kind of shit they think they on, but they're nowhere near Legion of Doom. And then JBL was like, yo, they couldn't hold the Legion of Doom's jock straps. And listen, I felt it. You could feel it. Because, JBL and these guys, they have a commentary style that when they're being legitimate and when they're playing the character. And you can feel that they were like, really? These guys had to say that? These guys got to say that? And then JBL's like, yo, their opponents look like they came in on a boat. I'm like, fuck. It's like, yeah, we got it. We got it. They're guys that you may or may not pick up at Home Depot. But geez, don't make it that obvious. Holy shit. In any case, I was definitely really, really let down by WWE Creative just for allowing or even writing that promo. Like, which writer said, hey, we're going to write this and you're going to say this? And they're going to boo you. And it's like, yeah, they're booing you, but they're not booing you because you're bad guys. They're booing you because they really, really trashed two legendary teams. Teams that I grew up watching. I'm sorry, the Doomsday Device from the Legion of Doom is leaps and bounds ahead of, it's ahead of their tag team finisher. When the Legion of Doom hit the Doomsday Device, that was it. It was the end of days. It was the end of days. Now, obviously, I could play the promo for you guys, but if you guys... I haven't been able to tell you guys, we actually have been getting a lot of shit from YouTube for playing certain video clips on the show. That's why you're not seeing as many of them. That's why I didn't play the promo. But Mortis did share the promo in the chat room, so definitely check it out if you're in there. And look for it on YouTube, because it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing, just because really WWE, you do that. Besides the fact that one of the, Hawk from the Legion of Doom is deceased. Like, you just pretty much said, hey, this guy, fuck him. It was just god-awful. God-awful. Anyway, Roman Reigns took on the Big Show in a match that was complete dog shit, and it just showed that these guys have zero chemistry together. And, I love the guys that are trying to validate, oh, but the Big Show, the Big Show's gonna bring out the best out of Roman Reigns. The Big Show couldn't bring the best out of a fucking bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'm sorry. The Big Show's time has come and gone. Any ounce of genuine talent in a match with the Big Show is fucking gone. Gone. And they try, oh, the Big Show, he's got new life in this feud with Roman Reigns. No, he doesn't. What, because he threw the table on him? Great. Nice work. It's fantastic. It was shit. And the fact that I have to watch that feud play out on my fucking television is disgusting. Roman Reigns is better suited either feuding with Seth Rollins or feuding with a guy like Cesaro. Somebody that'll bring more out of him, because it sure as hell is not the Big Show. I'm sorry to say it. It's not. It's definitely not. That's all I'm saying. Nikki Bella and Natalya squared off. Of course, this was a Total Divas angle, and yeah, pretty much that's where I stand with that. It was exactly what you would expect. Yeah, that's where that goes. Moving on. Eric Rowan and Luke Harper squared off for the 85,000th time, and of course, it was punishment for the stuff with the Authority. Yeah. Who would have thought that two guys that together as a tag team were so great, when paired together in singles competition, they just suck the life out of each other. They really do. They really do. They suck the life out of each other. Period. Anyway, Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt's ambulance match was what many were viewing as the final chapter in their feud, and what a chapter it was. I definitely enjoyed that match. There were a lot of instances where the match felt, exactly like some of their other matches, but it was intense. The spots were brutal. The storytelling was great. And I was bummed that Bray Wyatt got the win, just because Ambrose has been on the losing end of this feud the entire time. But if you're trying to build Bray Wyatt as this monster, either to challenge The Undertaker or Sting or whoever, then it's understandable. But I will say that, Dean Ambrose, you cannot make him continue to look weak going forward. Like, if you're closing out this feud and we're moving on from it, so be it. But you got to put Dean Ambrose in a feud. I mean, if he's going to start feuding with the Authority, then maybe that's where we're going to need to go. And the reason I say this is because of the SmackDown spoilers I read, which, definitely worth exploring. But I will say this, the ambulance match definitely was a treat, and I enjoyed it more than I should have. So definitely give that a watch if you haven't. The Miz, Damian Sandow, and Alicia Fox squared off against the Usos and Naomi. Of course, there was a little bit of Total Divas sprinkled in there, obviously because of the backstage altercation between Naomi and Alicia Fox. But the whole point of that match was, I think, just to get Mizdow over, and he continues to be over in every instance that he's on television. So I'm glad that they're trying to give him more TV time. But the real question is going to be, what happens to Mizdow when he is no longer paired with The Miz? We'll see what happens with that. Slick informed me that Jay is in the building and he wants to contribute, so let me bring him in and we can discuss some other stuff as well. Mr. Santy, welcome to the party.
Welcome.
There you go.
I'm from Cameroon. What's going on, my people?
Dude, am I wrong to say that episode of Raw on Monday night was complete dog shit?
I've now grown to find the appreciation of not watching it live anymore.
You watch that shit on fast forward.
Oh, jeez. And it's like I'm usually multitasking. I'm on a game here, I'm writing something there, and it's on. And I'm going, what the hell happened in the past couple of weeks? Am I missing something?
There you go. Yeah, so I was,
Go
ahead.
I'm drawing myself to be a bit more frustrated with the fact that of knowing that the true essence of what wrestling creativeness used to be is just the reality of it is just gone. It's gone.
Right, but I gotta ask you this. Before you came on, I was talking about New Japan's pay-per-view. And while New Japan's pay-per-view had a couple of stories here and there, they also had really good matches that were just put together. And the reason I bring it up is because why can't you just have matches between competitors just for the sake of competition? And this goes back to what you and I had talked about a while back about, maybe a ranking system would be good in these instances. You have a main event ranking system, an IC title ranking system, etc. And, you know, your number 1, your number 2, your number 3 guys, maybe a guy wants to get in on the ranking system, and maybe he'll face the guy that's at number 5 or number 9. And it would just allow people to see matches that either they haven't seen before, or at least there's something at the end of the road. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, for the longest we've been screaming for some type of like power rankings, like how college does, you know. And it's cool because, you know, you can even get the fans involved with their own vote, and you know how they have like the AP voting and stuff like that. The thing that I loved about the New Japan thing is that for people who aren't, you know, avid fans and know about it, whatever, and they heard that, you know, the pay-per-view was out, you could pick it up and watch it and it seems seamless. Like you didn't miss a beat. Like you didn't have to like go too deep into the story angle. It was something that you saw already. You said, this I can watch. The same could be said for those who aren't watching like Ring of Honor. Like you could not watch Ring of Honor for about a month or 2 at a time, and you could pick it up and it feel like you never left it. That's what I like about that type of storylining. This what's going on with WWE. It boggles the mind.
Well, even with House of Glory, which you've been covering, you know, House of Glory has a couple of feuds that are going on between events, but they also have matches of guys that are just trying to make names for themselves, trying to get on people's radar. You know what I mean? There's incentive there.
Yeah, it's funny because working where I'm at now, in case people don't know, I'm now working with the mental health field. You know, I figured that I would possibly like bump into more people who are wrestling fans. And every time that I try to speak to certain individuals about it, they go, wow, you still watch wrestling? Maybe you need medication. So I'm like, all right, I get it. You know, I'm probably a little bit too old for it. But they'll always tell me, like, you know, I used to watch it, you know, back in the day, and then I watched it when it came to, when The Rock and Stone Cold. But every time they always stop at one point, and that was the Ruthless Aggression era. Everybody stopped watching it then.
Yep.
And for me, I think that was a telltale point of when the storylines got a little bit, not because it wasn't edgy or anything. I think for them, it got to a point to where it was like, yeah, it's not as fun anymore. It didn't seem like to grasp and watch it anymore. And I'm thinking that right now it's getting to that point with this reality era. It's getting to the same thing.
Well, the thing that gets me is, like, obviously the Authority came back. We knew they were going to exact their vengeance. You knew it was going to happen. And you knew each match was going to end in some sort of shenanigans. Like, even, like Ryback taking on Seth Rollins and Kane, you knew how that was going to end up. I mean, it was good in the sense that there were good moments there. But the thing that got me was the match after that with Adam Rose and Big E, where you take two individuals that were wearing, the morph suits, that were there with the Rosebuds, attack Big E, and then it comes out that it's revealed that it was Cesaro and Tyson Kidd. Now, I don't mind the pairing because, like I said, there's a very power and glory style vibe to them. But if you're gonna invest this much energy into getting them out there, then at least make sure that A, they have a decent tag team name, and B, they actually wrestle in meaningful matches. Like those guys being involved with Adam Rose. Now, hopefully that was just a one-time thing, but if you're going to have them feud with the New Day, then make it be a question of different matches every week, different New Day pairings, et cetera, et cetera. But, don't just throw them together because you're trying to fill heel tag team space because of, Heath Slater having to deal with his legal issues and you losing Slater Gator,
Well, this goes back to what we were mentioning about the whole power rankings thing, because that would have been really like quintessential and showing a good storyline, motivation and angling, because you could say, New Day comes in as a hot team that's third in the rankings, and then, the Cesaro and Tyson Kidd team is ranked 6th in the rankings, and then boom, this happens, and they boost it. Like that tells something, because right now we're looking at our tag team division that we don't know who's with what. We have the New Day, we have the Usos, and then we have Stardust and Goldust, and everybody else is like, okay, let's just throw them together and see magic happens.
Well, that's the thing. Like you said about the ranking system. All right, you just mentioned the Usos would be at number 1. Maybe Stardust and Goldust would be number 2. Miz and Mizdow, since they were tag team champions and got knocked off, maybe they dropped to number 3. You put the New Day in maybe at number 4, depending on you could actually have a little fun with that. New Day pairing Big E and Kofi would be number 5. Kofi and Xavier Woods would be 6, and Big E and Xavier Woods would be 7. You know, you can have a little fun with the rankings, because then what will happen is you just make those guys kind of want to compete with each other. Like, oh, I want to tag with Big E because, you know, we're ranked 5th. And you can even create some really interesting dynamics there. And then the Ascension, they just came in. They're wrestling jobbers. They should be ranked number 10. And then, hey, you want to move up into title contention? You got to defeat whatever, team number 9.
Hell, and even throw a stable in there and have them do, you know, whoever won, if a stable was a tag titles, let them do the Freebirds type of, you know, whatever. Make it interesting. Make it like when somebody sees the tag match going on, because as I write in my writings, I'm a huge, if anything else, I'm a huge tag team match guy. I love that. I love the chemistry. I love the elements. I love the different, you know, power versus agility versus speed. I love all that. But now you're having it to a point that it's like you see 2 tag teams on the front, and you're like, oh God, again, I already know what this is going to be about.
Right.
It's not magical as it used to be.
Well, it's like, Jay, for those of you that don't know, Jay actually helped put together our brand new awards called the Ragies, and he wrote up his Ragies for the wrestling category, all on his own. And one of the things he mentioned in there were stables. And, you know, I talked about the stable earlier. I'm not going to get into where they came up in Jay's post, but the Bullet Club, which I was talking about before. If you look at the Bullet Club's dynamic, you got your strong guy, your technical guy, your high-flying guy, your really freaky-looking guy. But they complement each other so well that that's the kind of stable that in a ranking system would be worth looking at. You know?
Yeah, I'm just hoping that, like, and this is not only WWE. I know we've all been bashing WWE, you know, but this goes like across the board to even all promotions, because even from the indies to, you know, the promotions that are trying to break through that glass ceiling to get top of, you know, singles cards are always going to be like that focal point of booking. But you gotta really start gearing up the teams together and get good chemistry for good matches, and that, you know, and that's what they need separate creativity and creative for that, and I believe they do.
Well, you know what it is. Also, I do feel that WWE is suffering from too many hands in the cookie jar, and the reason I say this is because you got creative trying to come up with 3 hours of television. Then you got to deal. You have Triple H's input. Then of course you got Vince's input and Vince's rewrites. You know, I mean, think about this. Talking about the announce team, you know, when the Ascension cut the promo that they cut, you know, I don't blame those guys. I blame creative, because it was creative that said, hey, you're going to go out there and you're going to say this. And it was upper management who said, yeah, that's fine. So, yes, I was upset, but I can't even blame the performers, because, again, they're doing their job.
Yeah, you could always figure, like, in the background they got it, and it was like, you guys really want us to say this? We're going to get freaking slaughtered if we go out there with this.
Exactly.
You know,
and it's too many hands in the cookie jar.
You know. Yeah, even as a performer, you know that, like, this is not the heat that I want.
Right.
Like, you know, like you mentioned earlier, there's a different kind of heat. And this is not the heat that I want. And this is like, even Lance Storm tweeted on Twitter and was saying, I cut Raw off afterwards. He says, I'm done. I can't watch the rest after that disrespect. And I understand where he's coming from with that.
Yep. And on top of the fact, like I said, too many hands in the cookie jar to write 3 hours of television, plus Vince is involved. You know, and this goes back to the whole thing, and you know, you'll probably agree with this, how you saw NXT's big card and how, you know, tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs, they felt that they had to top the NXT guys. Like, they're like, yo, we're being shown up by dudes that don't have real TV time. And that's because you got one, you know, the creative team in NXT, I think it's like 2 guys plus Triple H. That's it.
Not only that, the guys in NXT, this is what I was mentioning before on Facebook and on Twitter, was the guys who do NXT are bookers from wrestling. They're the Regals, the Dusty Rhodes, the Triple H's whose hand is in there. You got trainers who are still in there putting folds in them at the road door. You still got you got guys who still wrestlers. Whereas you go to WWE with Raw and SmackDown, they're run by 20, 30 different people. Like if it's a freaking like a sitcom or it's ridiculous. It needs to go back to the grassroots and get purists of wrestling bookers to do it again.
And you know, that goes back to what everybody says, you know, because everybody automatically says, well, you should let Heyman run creative. It's not just Heyman, because what good is it Heyman writing Raw if Vince is going to read the script and at 7:56 he's going to say, I want these 4 segments changed. What does it matter? You get what I'm saying? Part of it is Vince too.
Vince always still seems to, he made it evident in the Stone Cold podcast, which, by the way, we didn't really speak about, but it was phenomenal. I mean, you mentioned it before, how Stone Cold is probably like the biggest surprise of the year when it comes to a podcast.
Absolutely.
That dude speaks like if he's still a fan.
Yep.
And he's in it for it. And that interview even left him, you could tell that it left him like speechless, because he didn't get answers that he really wanted. And to even learn that Vince is still that more involved and he's not getting out, it just leaves a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths.
That's exactly it. When you see that, you go, really, this dude's still day to day. And don't get me wrong, Vince McMahon is an incredible showman. He's a great personality to have on TV. But I think having him be so hands-on still is more a curse than a gift at this point. I think Vince as a character is a must. You need Vince as a character. But in terms of just the day-to-day and the creative aspect, I just feel it's not working.
Well, it's like we never can knock down the accomplishments that he's done.
Nope.
I mean, back to back. I mean, it's years and years and years. But now, like, even Triple H and even with TNA and are really recognizing is that the social media aspect and the reality of it, this is a pulse that I think is way over Vince's head.
Yep.
And, business-wise, to produce this product, substantial, awesome. Do what you got to do. Advertisement, do whatever it is that you have to do. Get your connections here, whatever has. But as it's still creatively, your hand is still writing, you're still the pencil changing shit.
Yep.
I don't know.
Nope, you can't do it. Now, obviously, to close things out, I did want to say that Raw ended with Ryback, Cesaro, and Rowan being fired. Now, of course, WWE firings are always amusing because it takes it. Correction, it was Ziggler, Ryback, and Rowan that got fired. And when you look at that, you automatically, you're like, all right, they'll be off TV and they'll be back by the Rumble. We know that's going to happen. The only thing that bothers me, and I said this at the beginning of the segment, is that by bringing the Authority back, you wash the slate. You undid all the work you did with Dolph Ziggler and Sting. And on top of that, the Authority, yes, I understand you need the villainous bad guys. But the problem with them is that it almost feels like they're always imitating Vince. Like they're not their own entity. It's like a parody of Vince.
Yeah, I have to like just let the IWC know, the Internet Wrestling community know, slow down with your hatred and your bashing of what's going on, okay? In case you haven't noticed, this happens every year.
Yep.
Every year, the big heel move happens. The movement occurs at the end of the year. It's never the feel-good moment. Let's look what happened last year. Daniel Bryan became a Wyatt family member. Let's slow down, everybody. As you mentioned, bringing back the Authority early. Yeah, you're a guy who doesn't mind the Authority thing. I'm done with the whole having that as the easy cop out.
Right.
To have the villain, because it's so easy to write for. It's like saying, hey, look, You know, let's bring the Legion of Doom to battle the Justice League. It's so easy.
But you know what it is? The evil creative entity, it can be utilized in a different fashion. One of the better uses of the heel owner is Lucha Underground with Dario Cueto, because that guy, he owns the promotion. He's kind of villainous, but he kind of blends into the background as certain feuds begin to take shape. Like, they did one of the earlier episodes of Lucha Underground. He had the match where it was like, I think, $100,000 briefcase, and it ended up like it was Johnny Mundo, aka John Morrison, and Puma, who was Ricochet, and I believe also Ezekiel Jackson was involved. And yeah, you know, it was very easy that the dude didn't want to pay out the $100,000. But it started creating animosity between the other players involved. And like I said, at that point, you know, Dario Cueto kind of faded into the background a bit. And that's what you need. You want your authority figure to kind of like lay the gamut and kind of start putting the pieces in place, and then just blend into the background. Like in the authority's case, you know, you come out, you award Rollins his match. Okay, but then just leave it. Let it play out over the course of the evening. Like, you know, if you want to have Kane be the instrument and just be like, Kane, you know, the authority states that this and this and this, and then you move it along. But you don't need Triple H and Stephanie out there for 3 fucking segments to hammer it home, you know?
But I wouldn't even care if it was like a freaking silhouette, like in Deal or No Deal, and they were a banker or a freaking authority figure that we didn't know. Like,
that'd be pretty funny.
Care was that? My whole thing is, it's like, why does it always have to be one way or another? Why does it have to be the good general manager, the heel authority? Why can't it just be like, listen, it's a booker who's booking, you guys do this, it's this, whatever, and if you don't like it, that's just what it is. Straight up in there. Years ago, we would see the managers will be going, Jack Tunney or Bischoff or whoever it was, Ted Turner himself, signed or gave me the agreement of this contract. And we never even seen Ted Turner, unless it was in a freaking stock exchange. But now it's like too much, and it's like it's pulling away. They're still trying to bring that Mr. McMahon type essence back, and it's, I don't know, to me it's oversaturated. It's done.
Well, like I said, I feel that it's caricatures. Like, they try too much to impersonate Vince. And then I also feel that Triple H still tries to be the wrestler and the authority figure at the same time. And you can see it in his promos. Like, when he clowns the guys like he's one of the boys. It's like, yo, dude, you're supposed to be a boss. You know?
Yeah, I hate that.
So,
I hate that.
And that's what I mean. Like they got to learn, like, he's got to learn to switch it off, which I've said before. But the heels themselves just fade into the background and let the feuds build themselves. Like, even in the New Japan thing, you know, when Jeff Jarrett joined Bullet Club or whatever, and, you know, Jeff Jarrett has his promotion, and Global Force Wrestling was kind of part of the whole thing with New Japan being able to air their pay-per-view here. Like, I understand it. But even with Jeff Jarrett, he was there, but not there. Not so much like when he was running TNA, but you know, he was not as out there as you would have thought.
Hell, I hope Triple H fires more of them next. I hope more people get fired. And even though it's storyline angle and all this stuff, but I appreciate it because at least they're away for a while. Hell, if they're not backed by Royal Rumble, hell, keep them out until Elimination Chamber or before WrestleMania, whatever. Keep them away. Let us miss them.
Yep.
Right? And with us missing them, it helps to bring up other wrestlers that we're not used to seeing, or maybe they have. Fine, you know what, guys, get healthy. Dolph needs the break. The guy's been busting his ass for 3 years. Let him have a break. He needs it. Fine. Yep. But once again, you don't need the authority to do it. You don't need it. But like you said, we always need the guys of the evil empire. Whatever.
Right.
Well, that's what we have now.
Well, you need it, but like I said, and I said it before, you can use the authority, you can use general managers, you can use them, but don't make them your crutch. That's the problem. Like creative, it's just like, make the Authority do this or make the Authority do that. And of course, obviously, Vince and those guys, they have final say, but there's better ways to do it. Like I said, you got guys that don't even need to be motivated by the Authority to feud with other guys. Like Kane should want to whoop Ryback's ass strictly because Ryback fucking clowned him how many weeks after Survivor Series. Seth Rollins should have issue with John Cena because John Cena is standing in the way of him cashing in the briefcase. You don't need the Authority for that. The shit's already there. But
yeah, I'm hoping. Well, it's not even a hope. It's because I already know at the end of the day what the payoff is going to be at WrestleMania anyway. The fans get what they want.
Yep.
We haven't seen a heel win WrestleMania in how long? Like, come on. But in hindsight, we also got to see. Let's give it a chance. Like I always say, let's see how the build-up is. Let's see how it rolls out. I hope they shit the bed like they did last year's Royal Rumble.
Dude, all I gotta say is, stop assuming that Roman Reigns is a main eventer. Stop it. Like, yo, don't fucking do it to yourselves. Cut the shit. He's not ready. He's not. Dude, that promo was embarrassing.
The dude looks like he has PTSD. Like he's just in shock. Like every time he goes, I can't believe I had gotten all this fan favor, and now it's going to shit. Like It's like it just happened on the turn of a dime. Like
that's it.
It's amazing, but that's their fault. That's
right.
That's initially. People always think the burial is when when a person is losing and they're losing on the time. No, this is what you call the gradual burial.
Yep.
You're burying the guy without even knowing you're doing it.
That's it. But I did want to backtrack a little bit. Road Warrior Animal actually posted on his Facebook page about the Ascension's promo, and he said the following. The idiots in charge make the call. Everyone knows how stupid it is to copy icons, yet they still do it. Do it in a mocking fashion to get heat. I understand. Do it in a disrespectful way. Well, that's another issue, and that's low and has no place in this business. Where does it end? And he puts, where does it end? And I usually, I'm just playing about the comment being a shoot, and I believe they should, have had me and Animal as a team. For some undetected odd reason, they didn't do it. They missed the boat with the Ascension, and they missed it when my brother John was in the ring. Both great times to bring me in, and they missed it. They need to go to their merchandise numbers today and see where we rank up on the main roster versus selling merchandise. So, basically, while he was expressing, and it's fucked up to say it, but he was expressing displeasure with the entire turn of events, he was also on in a veiled way saying, you should have put me with them. How fucking crazy is this business? Hell, I wouldn't have thought of that. I would have, like I said, I wanted Kane to manage them. But fuck, why not? Yo, Animal sees promise in these guys, and he's gonna help them. Fuck it, I'll take it.
Oh hell, if you could have said there, so out of a legion of doom, we will rise as the Ascension and have him as a manager playing the Paul Ellery role. Sure, why not? That'll work. Fine.
Dude, I would have eaten that up. That would have been fantastic. Or
that'd have been cool. At least that'd have been paying homage and giving that the pass its due.
Yep.
Not this shit.
Yep. And him
even
mentioning
if it was for a short period of time and then you bury him and whatever, boom, fine, whatever. But this shit is just utter disrespect. And mind you, WWE has a history of disrespecting the Legion of Doom and Road Wars. This is not like the first time.
Nope.
Guys, look it up. This is not the first time they've done this.
No, it's not. And the other thing, it was funny that he acknowledged the whole thing with Johnny Ace, because it's true, shit, Animal would have been a good enforcer for Johnny Ace. His fucking brother.
Yeah, who else could have played? He didn't even need the makeup. Just stand there in a freaking suit and just beat the shit out of people.
There you go. So, I did want to say that I did watch Impact before I came on before I started the show tonight. Not bad. Their little Destination America setup, not bad. Definitely you could see that they cut some corners with some stuff, but the wrestling was pretty solid.
I'm right now. I have it recorded. I've been watching little by little here and there when I've been able to grasp, and I finally could sit there and say, "Thank you." The look for TNA has gotten to where it should be.
Yep.
Peel away all the extra shit. You're not gonna be WWE.
Nope.
You're barely even NXT. Stop it. Bring it down to where the fans will appreciate it as a wrestling promotion.
Well, like I said,
I'm happy for that look.
dude, they should just stay taping it here. They should
Where
just
was it at actually?
They should just lock down the venue and stay here. Dude, we're a wrestling town.
What venue was that over there?
The not the Hammerstein, whatever they call it. The I guess it's still called the Hammerstein,
Center?
right?
Oh yeah, the Manhattan. Yeah.
Yeah, the Manhattan Center. It's like you guys should just lock that down because the crowd was good. And dude, we're a wrestling city. And you save money, just pay the venue and tape 4 episodes there a month.
Shit, they should do like what the indies and the other promotions are doing now. Instead of going and trying to get these big out venues, a lot of these independent places are doing clubs now. They're doing freaking dance clubs.
Yep.
House of Glory is in Club on Missouri. Ring of Honor did their final pay-per-view. They did it at Terminal 5. Like, these are, and it was packed. I mean,
Yep.
TNA could actually get back in full force by doing it. And like you said, if they keep it in New York, they'll sell out every venue.
Yeah, well, besides the fact the travel will be easier because you got all the major airports, you're in an area where it's highly populated by tourists. You could sell tickets. It was like a guy put on Twitter. He said that if you were using a Ticketmaster code, people were still getting 50% off tickets.
Wow.
Yeah, which was crazy. But still, it's like it's a good venue.
I'm amazed at how they are able to re-sign these wrestlers with that. I'm amazed by that.
Yeah, dude. I said the same thing when they were putting up all the announcements. Oh, we re-signed this guy. And oh, we re-signed that guy. And I'm like, yo, what are you paying them?
Dixie must be blowing every wrestler for every month, like at once, just to keep them on a contract. Because I really don't think how they have the money. I really didn't think they have the money.
Nope. Because, Viacom didn't even want to touch him. It's not like Bellator that has Viacom's wallet,
Yeah, and then, I didn't even get to catch it, but they had like a tremendous lead-in for tonight. Destination America had like a full day of like impact stuff. I was lucky I was able to record a lot of the stuff, but I was like, wow, and to sit there and watch like the greatest moments of TNA history is pretty awesome. If you guys are gonna that's something to see.
Yeah, the greatest moments of TNA bothers me because they added Hogan to so many of them. And it's just like, yo, what happened to all the weekly TNA pay-per-views and all the awesome shit they did? It's like, what happened to Elix Skipper during the Hurricane Rana off the top of the 6 Sides of Steel against America's Most Wanted?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? That's going to be in the box set. That's going to be in the box set. It's not going to be the one. They're going to give you for free. They got to give you that one for they got to recoup.
That's it. So, before we wrap things up, WWE put out their pay-per-view calendar on Sky Sports. So, the Rumble is January 25th, and it looks like it's the end of the line for the Elimination Chamber, at least for this year, because it's not happening after the Rumble. It's a new pay-per-view, WWE Fastlane, February 22nd. Then WrestleMania is March 29th. Then Extreme Rules is April 26th. Then Payback is May 17th. Then they're doing Money in the Bank June 14th. Then Battleground July 19th. SummerSlam, which is going to be in Jersey, August 23rd. Then Night of Champions. Then Hell in the Cell in October. And then Survivor Series in November. And TLC in December. So, looks like the Elimination Chamber, that's a wrap for that.
Yeah, that's fine because we can put that away for a while. Let it be the niche kind of pay-per-view that comes back once or so often. That's cool. They don't have any more. They don't have like the dual belts they can do anymore, and they already know that nobody's gonna lose a belt. Everybody, pretty much, if you put the Elimination Chamber, a belt has to be on the line.
Yep.
And yeah, so nobody's losing anything. So they're tucking that away for a while.
If they were smart, they would do the Chamber at Extreme Rules.
Yes, that would be
Yep.
logical there.
That's it. Just have, hey, this is your title match, whatever it is, at Extreme Rules. That I think that the reason too that they took it out is because that match has to be incredibly brutal on the performers right before Mania.
Yeah, they did really need to like position it properly during the calendar.
But not a bad slate. Not a bad slate. I'm hoping Raw definitely is better. Next week. I mean, what do we got? We got a 3-week build up for the Rumble. Rumble is usually one of my favorite pay-per-views because you never know who's going to show up. It's a good week for wrestling though. We got NXT moving to Wednesdays, which is basically competing against Impact and Lucha Underground, and SmackDown's moving to Thursdays, and then you got Raw Monday. It's shaping up to be a good 2015. The only thing we can hope for is that the creative side of things doesn't let us down.
Oh, we can look forward to that happening about 30 times this year. But that's all right because we could always look forward to outside entities other than WWE.
Absolutely. I know, Hog has been killing it. I know I've been following the recaps and watching you on social media for that because I just haven't been able to get over there. But they've been killing it, man.
Oh, man. Those shows have been like, I mean, they kind of, I didn't get to do a write-up on it because they actually changed the venue. I thought they did the time the last time, so we got there pretty late, so it was kind of frustrating. But, yeah, guys, I'm telling you, if you guys haven't been on it, and locally you guys, if anybody can get to New York in February, I believe it's the 27th, yeah, the shows are getting bigger and bigger. Also, Pro Wrestling Syndicate is now being televised.
Yes, it is.
I believe it's WLNY.
Yep.
So if you have that on your cable channel, that's actually a really, really good promotion out of New Jersey. They've been out for a few years now, and they're finally getting their way into the networks. Well,
that's good. Doesn't our good friend Danny DeMonto work with them?
Oh, but of course.
There you go.
As well as Brian Excel, Amazing Red, they're also affiliated there, and they have always tons of classic and independent stars that pass through there, and they have like a real intense format of different styles of matches and gimmick matches. It's great.
There you go. All right. With that said, that wraps up the segment. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Just want to say I missed you guys. You guys are awesome. I'm still chiming in and piping in as much as I can, although my work schedule has been crazy. But once again, My Take Radio, Rageworks, we're here. And Jay Santee is not gone. I'm still around.
There you go. Thanks for calling in, brother. I appreciate it.
Oh, appreciate your time. Love you guys. Peace.
All right, man. Peace. All right, ladies and gents, that was our very own Jay Santee. You can follow him on Twitter at Jay Santee. And, of course, you can always shoot the wrestling talk with him on our Facebook fan page as well. Be on the lookout for the Ragies, which will be available probably tomorrow. We're actually I'm working with somebody to design a Ragie award, and we're going to put that up with the Ragies, and we'll be able to put that up hopefully before the week is out. So there you have it. That's actually going to wrap up the first show of 2015. So let's close it out. And went a little bit over 90 minutes, but not too bad. Anyway, as I said, you've just heard My Take Radio episode 263, presented by Rageworks, broadcasting live Wednesday, January 7th, 2015. You can find the archived version of this show on iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. If you have any questions, concerns, or would like to be a guest on a future episode of My Take Radio, you can email me, mtrhost@mytakeradio.com or rich@rageworks.net. As for social media, you can find My Take Radio on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and of course, you can also find Rageworks on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and if you're into photos, we do a lot of stuff on Instagram, so you can follow us there, Rageworks_Rich on Instagram as well. On behalf of myself, Slick, Quark, Blade, Jay Santee, Josh, the Rightus, Ben, Andrea, and the rest of the MTR Rageworks family, I am out of here. I will see you guys tomorrow, well, later on today, for our entertainment episode of My Take Radio. Peace.
I'm real
That's all, folks.